Maybe this can lead us to our culprit.
Jinkies!
Apparently he's been stealing Netflix by using his mother's account.
That is not fair for the rest of us who have to pay for Netflix.
You have to pay for Netflix?
Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. My name is Dom Griffin. I am a film critic and you are watching the Armchair Auteur. It's an ongoing video series I've been doing where I talk about movies. If you're the kind of person that likes hopping on YouTube and seeing some stranger you don't know talk about movies, you should consider subscribing to my channel because I do this all the time. Today, we're going to be doing a review of the movie Scoob, which is sort of a reboot of the Scooby Doo universe. It's hard to call it a reboot because the Scooby Doo universe has been around for like 50 years and they reboot it every like 6 to 8 months. But this is designed to be sort of a new thing where they take Scooby Doo and put it back into the mainstream with a new voice cast, like a new approach, like make it more modern. And try to make it more like a formidable franchise that could be like a big summer movie. Under normal circumstances, Scoob would be a big summer movie because that's when it was designed to come out, but during the coronavirus situation, it is here on video on demand. Now, before we get into the movie, I do want to address two things about Scooby Doo. One is that I love Scooby Doo. I've loved Scooby Doo since childhood. I've watched most of pretty much every version of Scooby Doo that's ever existed. And the reason I love it so much is because it's got like this really cool iconic cast. It has a very mutable concept. Like you can do like semi-serious stories of Scooby-Doo, you can do completely goofy stuff, you can have them cross over with like any number of pop culture figures, and it always seems normal. Like they can team up with Batman, Phyllis Diller, the Harlem Globetrotters, like it doesn't matter. And that's what I've always loved about it. So to me, like any new Scoob is like cool. Like they could have like really ruined this and I probably still would have liked it at least a little bit. And we also have to address sort of the elephant in the room, which is the Matthew Lillard situation. A lot of people are huge fans of Matthew Lillard's version of Shaggy from the two Raja Gosnell directed Scooby-Doo live action movies. And after those two movies, he ended up continuing to voice Scooby-Doo like in other animated series and movies since then. And, of course, he does not voice Shaggy in this new movie, and in fact, he found out he wasn't voicing Shaggy in this new movie when the actual voice cast was announced to the rest of us. So, a lot of people sort of had a lot of bad faith towards this film just based on that alone, but I have to report that I do think that Will Forte does a fantastic job as Shaggy, and while it sucks that Matthew Lillard's not in the movie, it doesn't really take away from the rest of the movie. So, the big thing about Scoob is that it's sort of like part origin story, like of how the gang got together, assuming you've never watched a pup named Scooby-Doo and don't see like their origins, and also sort of like a larger, big budget, like cross-genre thing. The best way I can kind of describe it tonally is like, it reminds me a little bit, and this is going to sound bad for a lot of people, of the female Ghostbusters movie, where like it moved away from like being a straight comedy into being sort of like a Men in Black style, big set piece, big loud like action stuff like genre thing, which is a little bit unfortunate. But when the film begins, it is like the origins of Scooby, like how Shaggy and Scooby met, how the gang came together and stuff, like when they're kids. The first 20 minutes of the movie is really good. Some of like the best stuff I've seen in movies like all year, because it has like a lot of heart. It really gets at like the core of like why this friendship group really works, and it functions like an old Scooby-Doo thing. Like it really gets to like the platonic ideal of a Scooby-Doo mystery when it sets up their origin story. And because it's like this new 3D animation style versus the usual 2D we always get, it's shot kind of like more like a horror movie almost. So like you get the thrills and chills part of the usually kind of funny hijinks in a way that actually feels tense and actually feels suspenseful. And I thought, wow, if the whole movie is going to be like this, be like a really big 3D animation, like, you know, I guess like DreamWorks-y Pixar approach to a Scooby-Doo mystery, that's going to be tight. Like I'm going to be super on board. And that's kind of how things started. And I was like really digging it. But the movie as a whole actually follows more of the paradigm of like Warner Brothers' recent animation stuff, more like the Lego Batman movie, the Lego movie series, where they're just kind of trying to shove as much of the IP they own into like a digestible pop culture product. So it's much more about Shaggy and Scooby teaming up with Blue Falcon and Dynamite, and like Captain Caveman shows up, and Dick Dastardly's the villain, and like it becomes this like kind of big Hanna Barbera like love fest, which I'm okay with. Like if that was like the whole idea from jump, like I kind of get it. But if what you really want is like a big Hanna Barbera love fest, like they don't go far enough with it. It's not like they also throw in like Johnny Quest and like Space Ghost and stuff. It's really just kind of like the Scooby cast and like, you know, Blue Falcon, which is cool. That works. It's kind of fun, but like it makes this entire middle section, like the majority of the movie, just kind of like a big budget, like fun set piece after set piece, like thing, and it just doesn't, that part doesn't work for me very well. Obviously, there's still a mystery element to it. The actual Mystery Inc. gang is still like a big part of it. In this version, Zac Efron voices Freddy. He's fantastic. Amanda Seyfried voices Daphne. She's really good. Like I already said, Will Forte is great as Shaggy. Fred Welker comes back as Scooby because like you got to keep some of the original magic. The only cast member I'm not a really big fan of is like Gina Rodriguez voices Velma, and like she's really seemed like a really good fit to me, and like I just in general don't like her. So once I realized it was her, I was like, oh, tuning out. But the rest of the cast is cool too. Mark Wahlberg shows up as like this sort of like second generation version of Blue Falcon. Ken Jeong voices Dynomutt. Tracy Morgan shows up kind of later as Captain Caveman, which is cool. And like it's fun. It has this sort of fun, typical family friendly movie vibe to it. And I guess one of the things I like about Scooby Doo is like they have like, I don't know, like 30 or something straight to video movies, and all of them have kind of more like story structure and intrigue and entertainment value than a lot of other typical family movies. You know what I mean? A lot of family movies and kids movies, they fall into like either like the what used to be kind of like the Pixar tier, where it's like these are really strong, well-told stories that anyone can get into. They're all ages, like pieces of drama with family comedy and stuff mixed in. Or it's like sort of like the like more the DreamWorks-y, like there's a lot of bright colors, there's a lot of pop culture references and loud music, like this should distract your kids kind of movie. And Scoob definitely is kind of caught in the middle. Like parts of the movie work really well from a storytelling perspective. Like there's themes, it's something you actually feel, like the actual relationship between the characters seems like really honest and tender. But, you know, there is a little bit of it where the writing is kind of hewing more towards like pop culture references and like jokes for adults and stuff. And like they moved it a little bit further towards like the Pixar realm and focused on the character relationships a little bit more and made it just one big mystery and actually had like, you know, like a mystery of who was going to be the villain at the end and not just this big like cross-genre thing where they're fighting Dick Dastardly and it turns into like the Mummy kind of near the end and stuff. Like it just gets to be a bit much. But my biggest thoughts about the movie, besides the fact that I thought it was mostly fun and enjoyable and like I think people would dig it, is it kind of reminds me of the larger argument around the VOD model. It's kind of a big deal that certain studios are releasing their movies that were intended for a theatrical release this summer onto video on demand. And like many of the movies that are coming out on video on demand are the kinds of things that are like throwaway movies, like the Trolls World Tour movie or like Capone. You know, like some of these things are like, you know, we're gonna have like huge theatrical legs to begin with anyway. But I felt like Scoob was like a really big investment on Warner Brothers' part. Like it's very clear they're trying to like make Scooby Doo like this big mainstream thing again, and they just dump it on VOD because they don't have a choice. And the numbers aren't in yet, so it might do very well, but it might not. And I think this comes down to like, when it comes to VOD movies, right? Like if Christopher Nolan's Tenet came out on video on demand, it might do well and people would probably want to get it because they want to see it and stuff, but it wouldn't be like special, you know? Like he makes his movies for like the big screen more so than many other filmmakers, I guess, in the modern age do. And certain kinds of movies you feel like you really do need to see on the big screen. And like I get why kids movies work so well in the video on demand thing, because if you're stuck at home during quarantine, you got a gang of kids and you're running out of ways to entertain them, having a new movie finally after watching Frozen 2 like 30 times or whatever that you can throw on for them and you just buy it for like $20 and everyone's already home and like it's just a done deal, that makes sense. Like that's actually kind of a smart model. And I know that Trolls World Tour didn't make as much on VOD as it would have made with a real theatrical run, but like I get why it works. Like I don't have kids, but like being someone that runs a movie theater and like understands like the economics of movie theater exhibition stuff, I sort of get why if you're a parent and you have a night at the movies, you have to pay for you, your wife or whatever, your kids, you know what I mean? You have to feed all of them. Like you have to give them all candy, you have to give them all popcorn, you have to get ready sodas. Like a night at the movies ends up costing like a lot of money. I still want to point out that going to a movie theater, even with a family, is still sort of the cheapest form of entertainment compared to like sporting events and live theater and concerts and all that other stuff. That's important to note. But if you got a whole militia of youths with you and you have to keep them entertained, one click and you have a $20 movie they can entertain themselves with, especially if you have like a big enough OLED TV or whatever, you know, it makes perfect sense. Thinking about all that and wondering how Scoob is going to do here, like at the video home market and stuff, I kind of realized all the things I felt about it from the way I was criticizing it were from the watching it at home perspective. You know what I mean? And like almost all the other Scooby Doo movies I've watched, other than the 2 live action ones with Freddie Prinze Jr. and Matthew Lillard, all of the Scooby Doo movies I watch are always meant to be straight to video or straight to Cartoon Network or whatever. The truth is, most of them are better than this movie. And I realized, like, wow, this was going to come out in theaters. This was going to be a movie that I would have to leave the house for and put on pants for. And judging it by a theatrical window metric, I think I would like it a lot less, and I would probably be a little bit more critical of it compared to the other Scooby movies I already like. It seems like coronavirus is saving Warner Brothers the embarrassment of putting a bunch of money behind this big Scooby Doo push into the mainstream in theaters, and then it's like a dud, versus just dropping it online and saying, oh, it didn't work because of online. Or maybe it does work because people are stuck and they're going to watch it anyway, you know? Final verdict, I think it's a fun movie, but I realize it's largely a fun movie if you're stuck in the house. I don't know that I would encourage people to go see it were that an actual option. I mean, realistically, if you love Scooby Doo, there's so many other Scooby movies you can watch. Brave and the Bold meets Scooby Doo, like where they team up with Diedrich Bader Batman, a delight. Far better than this. Most of the early straight-to-video movies they did in like the early 2000s, way better than this. Like, in the pantheon of Scooby content, doesn't really rank very high. But it does give me hope that maybe if this VOD version is successful, they'll do another one in this 3D style. I would love to see more of Zac Efron as Fred. He's a real riot. Well, that's my take on Scoob. Like, if you have a bunch of kids you're trying to keep entertained, I do think it's probably worth like the $20, whatever it costs to buy it, or get it off of a friend's Plex server or something. You know, if you guys see it or watch it, tell me what you think. Tell me what your favorite piece of Scooby-Doo content is below in the comments. If you liked this video, please give it a thumbs up. If you didn't, you can give it a thumbs down. Comment, let me know what you think about about Scooby-Doo as a whole, the Scooby-Doo universe, how bad you feel for Matthew Lillard. You know, and if you haven't subscribed to the channel, please subscribe below, hit the little bell icon so you get notifications when I put out future videos. We'll have more videos out this upcoming week, and we're just going to keep this quarantine content thing rolling. Thank you guys for watching and supporting. Have a great day. Stay safe.